is not on the screen here right now, but there's also, which is the chat. There's so many chats. There's the Odysee chat, which is the link that I tweeted out. Then there's going to be the YouTube chat, which when the YouTube thing kicks over, there should be. And then it's also going to be out on Twitter, so people might tweet at it. I don't think they'll tweet at it. They don't usually tweet comments that often, but yeah. All right, let me. Yeah, the title did update. I'll just say, hey everyone, we are technically live. No one's watching on YouTube though yet. Like, I think it's like 11 people are watching on Odysee. Yeah, a lot of those are leftovers from the other one, but still.
Yeah, it's cool that it auto transfers over.
Yeah, what is the significance of the tree on your hat, by the way?
Oh, it's a brand called 10 Tree, like an ethical brand, and they plant 10 trees for every item of clothing that you buy. So it's
Yeah,
part of their brand.
well that's nice. I'm sure there's going to be some sort of a crypto that does a similar type thing where, like a proof of work mining firm.
I'm up for buying like some more smarter and more understated crypto apparel. I do have my Dash shirts, but yeah, I'd like a little Dash logo up here would be, just something subtle. I'd definitely buy that.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you have like Dash monogram things on your shirt or like Dash on like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
underwear waistband or something. It's
Just
like, oh,
just
what
little
the?
touches, not overstated, like a massive Dash logo, like here, like some people. But yeah, I definitely think there's room in the market for someone who doesn't just
Yeah,
print the Dash logo, or screen print the back Dash logo in massive writing on some shirts. Just do
yeah.
something subtle, make a full brand of it. That'd be pretty cool.
Millennial 70 on Odyssey says I identify as leftovers. So regarding my leftover comment, but yeah,
Okay.
we're probably
Always
good to
make
go then if there's people making quips about that stuff. So I'm just gonna hit this intro and we'll get started. So hey everyone, happy Friday. Good seeing you again. If you watched the last podcast, if you didn't, you held out for the big one, then hi for the first time. Before we get into the intros, into what we're actually getting into, remember I am paywalling Ash today. cointr.ee/the desert lakes. You drop a little question with your super chat. You can send me Doge and stuff, but I assume you're gonna be sending Dash, and then I'll read them out. I'm obliged to read out stuff that is paid. Although if it's something like a ethnic slur or something, I'm not gonna do that. But I will at least acknowledge that I got it. So that's what money gets you. It gets you access. You know, you want to talk to someone as wonderful as Ash, you got to pay. All right, that's just how it works around here. But anyway, I'm joined with Ash. I'm joined by Ash rather. How's it going, Ash?
It's going well. It's going well. Everything's good. Very busy, but good as usual.
Yes. So before we get into the very busy part, I mean, let's just get into the very busy part, which is I was talking about your hat earlier, but as far as metaphorical hats, let's go over your hats, right? All the different hats you wear in the Dash
Lots of
ecosystem.
hats.
So first,
Um,
CTX, right? You're the founder, co-founder. What is it? What do you call
Co-founder, yeah. CTX is ctx.com, payment processor for merchants and partners. We allow merchants to accept Dash and receive their local currency. We're expanding it to include our on-ramps that are in beta at the moment, and including other local currencies. At the moment, it settles in US dollars, but we're expanding to cover every geography everywhere, and just really bridge the gap between merchants and crypto, make it really easy for them, and also payment service providers. So if you're with an existing payment service provider, or you use like a Verifone or a Clover point of sale, we want it to be really easy and accessible to accept Dash.
Yeah. So that's CTX, and then you're a Dash Investment Foundation supervisor, and you admin the Dash Incubator, one of the many admins. And is
Yeah.
that, I mean, so that's the extent of it, right? Because that's already.
Also a trust protector, current
Oh, right.
sitting trust protector. Yeah,
Yes.
the last hat.
So which
And
hat?
master owner and proposal owner and all these fun things.
Yeah. So basically, it's safe to assume you don't really sleep.
Uh, yeah, occasionally, on occasion.
Yeah, once in a while. Well, let me start out in that order. So I asked you on a couple weeks ago, and it was apparently your birthday then. So happy, a little
Thank
bit
you.
annoyingly longly belated. You know, I guess it still counts for something. And I didn't have a specific agenda other because again I don't need to because of all these hats. Like all I have to do is ask you about all the like 90% of the interesting stuff happening in Dash, and you have at least a finger in that pie. So that's kind of like the free form. I'm just gonna go down the list of the hats, and anyone who has a question about anything for Ash, throw in a super chat, and we're in business. But in the meantime, so let's start with the lesser known yet major hat. The first one, CTX. So first, to kind of wrap our head around the whole thing, what business or service that's already in the crypto industry that people might be more familiar with would you like to compare it with?
Yeah, we're really an analog of BitPay and coin payments in that regard
Mm-hmm.
currently.
Yeah.
They're, the largest payment processors. They each process over $2 billion in crypto payments each year, which is a huge
Mm-hmm.
amount of money.
It's
We're
not
really an
bad.
analog to them, but with Dash support. We're expanding our services into more the consumer focus, which BitPay has done as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're the best comparison really for us on that side.
Yeah. So right now, and obviously, you're intending to expand to a bunch of, extra stuff, but as far as what you can afford, right, what you can afford to customers right now. So let's just say a merchant, that would be the primary thing that you would be dealing with, right? A merchant wants to integrate CTX
Yeah.
for their to process payments. And so what can you offer a merchant today? Like let's just say the metaphorical coffee shop, because they do have a coffee shop around the corner that is interested in
Yeah,
crypto. They
it's a
want
good
to
question.
use you. Like what can you do for them today? Literally today.
So
Like
right now we have a few different avenues for off ramping. So any merchant
mhm.
can integrate our either directly integrate our APIs or use our point of sale devices. Sorry, let's just grab one of them whilst we're on the call.
Demo
They can use
time.
one of our point of sale devices, which are dedicated hardware for crypto payments. They've got
Mhm.
our app built into them. And then they can accept the Dash payments. Now, the bigger question for most merchants is how can I turn that into my local currency? Now, there are a few different ways they can do that currently. We do have our own off ramping in beta, but it's still proving, Alex has been focused on THORChain. So we're coming
Yeah.
back round to our own off ramps now. But the way we offer off ramping at the moment is they can either put the payout address to their uphold address, which can be an auto converting address, which means
Yeah.
if they receive Dash, it'll instantly get converted into US dollars, which there's about a 1% fee. So it's very comparable to coin payments and BitPay.
Mhm.
Or we also have a Kraken and a Binance API based integration, which means
Yeah.
they give us an API key that they generate on their own Kraken or Binance accounts, and it will instantly convert the received Dash. So that's a incredibly low fee, around 0.2%. So it's far more competitive than any
Hmm.
of the existing companies in the marketplace. For
And
our
it's an
own
auto
on ramp,
conversion, right?
it is, yeah, fully auto conversion. So we use
So
the API keys and we submit market orders on their behalf. So as soon as their account reaches a threshold, which they can choose in our system, as soon as let's say they have 5 Dash in their account, it will then auto sell that 5 Dash at a market rate, market sell. So
how low can that be set?
it can be set as low as the trading limits really are on Kraken or Binance. It depends on the partner, but whichever partner they use, they can set at the minimum for any trade.
Yeah, and how hard is that part to set up? Because like I've some
We
experience
have
with
a
the
UI
uphold
for
thing.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have a UI for it. It's something where we're just polishing at the moment. Right now, we do it as more of a hands-on, personal
Mm-hmm.
thing. We're kind of like at that hybrid stage where we offer some level of concierge services,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of where we're at with that part at the moment. We will release that UI for it, And I do think as we add more cryptos, that's going to be a very attractive option, because the fees are incredible. The liquidity in the marketplace is just very good, and there are two very established names in the space. So yeah, I think that one will get quite popular.
And then you have your own off ramps.
Yeah, we have our own off ramps. Realistically, for commercial reasons, there's a lot more sense for us to focus on our own off ramps than
Yeah.
using Kraken or Binance. So we'll be trying to make those as competitive as possible. Um, yeah, and they're in progress. We've had successful trades all the way through from buying Dash with credit cards to selling Dash through to bank transfers, and it's just a matter of improving those processes, and yeah, that's what we're working on really.
And so right now, let's just say the coffee shop around the corner, they can either buy a device from you or integrate the app into their thing.
Yeah, they could use our Android app on any of their phones. Their clerks could bring their own device. They could use our web app on any computer they have there. A Square point of sale, they could switch tabs to a Safari browser and just process the payment as a cash tender, and that would be fine as well.
Yeah, that's the way most merchants around here that I know use AnyPay kind of
Yeah.
handle it. Now, on contrast, though, I mean, obviously, contrast with AnyPay, you actually can convert, which is what a lot of merchants might want. Uh, but is if I understand correctly, right now because of limits on time, because again, your Atlas holding up the whole Dash world on your own, it's Dash exclusive at the moment, right?
It is currently Dash exclusive, and one of the key things there to know, and we can talk about DashDirect, but
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the payment space on a level playing field, Dash just outshines everything. Like we've looked and we're working on integrating support for Bitcoin because of the high level of demand for that, but
Mm-hmm.
it's so much more cumbersome. It's such a pain thinking about confirmations all the time and working within different risk tolerances for different market sectors. Like there are some companies that would want to accept zero conf transactions in Bitcoin, some that will only accept 6 confirmations, and turning that into a UX for merchants to understand easily it's complex. And from a
Yeah, it's
technical
crazy.
side, it's complex.
And I'm sure that is the same thing with Lightning as well. Have you guys even thought about Lightning?
Yeah. You're really the expert on that side of things. We will
Not anymore.
when
If you
it's
notice, my node's gone. I don't run the node anymore. I gave up.
well, it's a point where I want to get to a stable state, then we'd look to integrate it, but not at this state. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
be looking for that market appeal really in terms of accepting ERC20 and Bitcoin and probably Litecoin and maybe even Doge, just
If it's still
whatever
around by then.
is work. Yeah, exactly. And it's a case of working within those means, but Dash will always be our first love. And I do think that on that level playing field, Dash really just works. And I don't believe in walled gardens as
Yeah,
such.
well, that's one of those things where the markets being what they are, I really can't wait until you have multi-coin support so I can spend only Dash. Because can you imagine having a crypto meetup and okay, all the local people know it's just no Dash, they just spend it. And if someone's like, "Oh, I wanted to use Monero," and they're like, "I'll say I'll take your Monero and I'll just pay your bill," that works. But if you advertise you take crypto, 95% of the time or more, the rando off the street is going to be like Bitcoin, like, no, we only take this one that you've never heard of. And it's like you got to get them in the door and then change their behavior, or let the
Yeah,
free market change
absolutely.
their behavior to Dash. So do you have any rough time these are the questions you absolutely hate, I'm sure, but like rough time estimates on when you would like to have at least like 2 or 3 extra coins available on the CTX like
The
point of
truth
sale
is, right.
system?
So
Yes.
the immediate thing, like priority order, like bandwidth is a huge problem for us. But the
Yeah.
priority order is THORChain first. That ties into everything that we're doing with CTX as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
we see ourselves more as, we have the payment processing side, we have the on ramp, but I kind of see it more as the API of that bridges crypto and fiat, and that can be implemented in so many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to where we're at right now, THORChain is the immediate priority, and we can talk about timelines about that when we come to that.
Mm.
Then it's going to be on ramp because for our commercial reasons, the demand for a better on ramping solution and where we can make really good revenue there, and it really ties in with our work with DashDirect as well. That's going to be the next higher priority. And then we're going to come back round to the off-ramp side, adding those additional cryptocurrencies and fiat currencies. But it's all
So,
very tied together. The on-ramp and the off-ramp are very harmonious in how they
so in
work.
the spirit of when Evo and stuff, are we talking like a 6 month time frame before we start being able to expect like somewhere in there? Is it like a year? Is it like
Yeah, I
six
think I
weeks?
think we've got like 2 months on the THORChain is what I'm going to say. To dependent on them right now, I will go into detail on that. Then I would say maybe 6 months for a wider scale on ramp release, which will include other cryptocurrencies, a lot of other cryptocurrencies, probably, hopefully, and then probably a year to full merchant, multi-coin and everything. We'll probably release our fiat off-ramping solution before then for Dash specifically, but for full multi-coin involving, Bitcoin and ERC20 tokens and BSC Binance Smart Chain tokens, that's probably, a year is reasonable to give us a bit of breathing room. Hopefully earlier, again, it's a bandwidth and capacity thing. Hopefully other priorities don't come in above it. But
And
right now,
Sid,
that's kind of where I'm at.
you and your partner slash developer person, Alex, were kind of the only
Yeah.
show in town, but now I heard rumor that you're trying to expand, like get more people on board so you could take over.
Yeah. So we are sort of figuring that out at the moment. Really, there's three different plans that I'm working on amongst the many other things. I'm also dealing with our immigration side of things. So we've got our business plan, our software development plan, and our fundraising plan. At some point, realistically, we don't want to be. We're an independent project, and we want to maintain that independence. But at some point, we're going to have to work on our own funding externally to the DAO and our expansion of our team. Right now, we can justify working with contractors. We could maybe add one member to the team, but for long-term stability, we probably do need to do another external fundraise, either a seed round or even a Series A, or an initial DEX offering, whatever it becomes.
Yeah.
We'll definitely have to consider those avenues.
Yeah, well, that's quite exciting. And you guys are the processor for good old DashDirect, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Now, is that like, and obviously, there's always going to be a million questions, some of which will be, maybe you'll have to swat those away and say, can't answer that. But so you're that's your main client currently as far as CTX is
Yeah,
concerned,
I would say
right?
they're definitely our flagship client. We have around 200, 300 or so registered merchants on our system. Only a few, more than, uh, low double digits are active, but DashDirect being the number one of them all, really. And
So
they're definitely.
how much can you tell us about the other merchants, about like maybe a couple names, maybe where they're at, like what kind of just
Yeah.
whatever you can
Um,
volunteer. Obviously, it's all proprietary information, but just I'd like to know
Honestly, off the
who
top
else
of
you're
my head, I
servicing.
don't have the specifics on the active merchants. There is one near to you, actually, that is active. And there's a brewery near you that's been doing a lot of testing recently. I don't know if that's with
Oh,
your
is it
assistance, but
are we talking about tree logos and stuff?
yeah, I
Yeah,
think so,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, that's my buddy. Okay.
Um, Yeah, then there is a few in Venezuela that are still actively sending through transactions. Dash Help regularly run tests, and when they've done their promotions with Church's Chicken, they've been and Dash Text, they've been using it quite heavily. But yeah, I'm not quite sure on whose team some of the Venezuelan merchants belong to. I'm not quite sure if they belong to Dash Mall and Parking or Dash Help, Dash Text, or if there's independent usage there. But again, adding someone who speaks Spanish to our team would be helpful on that front.
Yeah, I could
But yeah.
imagine. Yeah, so the last kind of like CTX question was be about like Dash Direct. So first off, you've been processing Dash. Well, one more small one, I guess,
Yeah.
related to Dash Direct. So for those who don't, I mean, this I'm sure a lot of listeners of the podcast know what I'm talking about, but some might not because almost no one who uses crypto knows this. But almost every crypto invoice you pay is just like a QR code of an address or an address with some amount or maybe a little memo attached too. Just some very basic stuff. But any pay which is what almost all the merchants here in New Hampshire use, and a lot around the world, and BitPay, I believe, use either BIP70 or BIP270, and the wallet has to be able to actually access those. And for the longest time, it was a struggle to get a lot. I mean, the Dash wallets all use it. The core wallet, Electrum, the official mobile wallet, like all that stuff would always be able to pay those. And then there was a couple of multi-coin wallets, but most notoriously Koinomi, which Koinomi, if you're watching this, shame on you, would not explore any of this stuff. But Edge could pay, BitPay stuff, and it could pay AnyPay stuff. But I have heard from a friend who I will remain unnamed on the public podcast again. I always don't want to accidentally dox someone who gets mad at me later. But supposedly Edge does not work for DashDirect. And I wonder why. Do you have any idea why it would work for AnyPay but not for CTX, I guess?
Yeah, it's an interesting problem. We are actually in contact with the Edge team, with Paul specifically, and their integrations team. So this is being looked at. We did implement BIP70 payment protocol in the same way AnyPay has, the JSON-based payment protocol. So there isn't an obvious reason why it shouldn't be working. So we're just going to dig into it with them and see what the issue is there. There may be something in our response that they're not expecting. There's just a little something which thankfully they're very receptive. They're a really good team. Edge, I have a lot of time for. So it's a multi-coin wallet I use amongst others. I do have Koinomi and Trust Wallet installed. I like to check out all these things.
Yeah.
But they're a very good team, and I think that this will be sorted in short amount of time. So
that'll be nice, because as it is, to use DashDirect today, you basically have to tell people to download a Dash exclusive wallet, and a lot of people that just are multi-coiners are not going to do that really. And Edge is the good thing. Oh, everyone uses Edge. Just use Edge. It works for all this stuff. And once that gets fixed, that'll be great. But not to belabor that. But then the final CTX thing would be volume, right? So obviously, like, the public footprint of CTX is extremely small as far as I've been able to tell. Like, almost no one knows it exists, and like no one knows it's doing business now. But you guys have been actually doing some decent business through DashDirect, right?
Yeah, well, not just DashDirect. I don't want to, give any specifics on that, but over the last, 6 months or so since we've been CTX.com, we've processed low six figures, low mid six figures in volume, US dollar denominated volume, obviously all in Dash. So that's going really well. We are under the radar. We're a small team. We're 2 people at our core, and we're more in that sort of development phase. At some point, there will become more of the public facing and marketing side. And I actually come from a marketing background, so I'm very excited for that time. But really, at the moment, it's more a case of focusing on our product and finding that sort of market fit, which obviously with DashDirect, Marshall says wonderful things about us and is very supportive of what we're doing, and we're continuing to work with them. And it'll be refining our offering for more merchants, more partners, and for consumers with the on-ramp product.
Yeah, well, top stuff.
One more thing on CTX, because I want to cover it. I want to talk about it.
Obviously.
So with THORChain, decentralized exchange, no one can block access to THORChain. And with our on-ramps, we can buy Bitcoin. No on-ramp ever is going to remove Bitcoin, and realistically, they're always going to have Tether. So by being on THORChain and having Tether through our on-ramp partners, or Bitcoin through our on-ramp partners, whichever asset we use for that trade, Dash is completely uncensorable, and we can go from any currency anywhere where Bitcoin can be bought into Dash. Now, the point of this is that our system is designed to tie all of this together, that you, in time, the longer term plan is that your account is being used to purchase Bitcoin, and then there's a UX which hides the fact that behind the scenes, or it doesn't hide, it just communicates that you've bought USDT, you bought USDC, you bought DAI, you bought Bitcoin, whatever you bought, and then that's being traded into Dash through a decentralized exchange. And by this way of stepping back from it and being purely a software solution ourselves, we're uncensorable, and Dash is uncensorable, and it's just a really nice way to protect us long term and to expand our assets. Every asset that's added into THORChain would then be on our system, and no one can ever stop anyone doing that. So whether that's Pirate Chain or Monero or whatever, it's just I'm very supportive of THORChain, and I'm very
Yeah.
excited to see where we can take this further beyond just adding Dash into THORChain, but bringing THORChain into the Dash ecosystem and that access to Dash that's enabled by THORChain.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense because from my experience, right, I remember there was a time when Dash was subject to quite a few delistings because of alleged privacy coin status or whatever the hell that even means. And that seems to have slowed down and there have been reversals. However, there's a couple of nagging, lagging things where a few, what we know of, because the state of New York does not, has not whitelisted Dash, then Coinbase Commerce and more importantly BitPay can't really add, or they couldn't offer it in New York, so therefore they're not going to offer it at all. Just so I have a consistent experience. So therefore Dash is left out of tons of these integrations. Now that adoption's actually happening in the world for crypto. And then also on another Uphold removing Dash in Europe and some other things that maybe more about the specifics than I do, but I'm pretty sure it's an easy bet that some fiat on-ramp, off-ramp partner just has a blockage with Dash.
Oh, definitely. There's one in particular that was quite a big one for Dash, and it was quite a large announcement about, which no longer support Dash directly, which is Coinify. But they're one that we can actually implement through this decentralized swap. So you'd be created an account on Coinify, which would become Bitcoin. Your purchase would become Bitcoin, and then it'd be swapped straight into Dash. And it's a very changing landscape, and there's no knowing quite what the future holds, but there is ways to defend against that, and THORChain is a brilliant way, amongst other decentralized exchanges. There's a new fork of THORChain that's just come out recently that THORChain themselves are supportive of. It's just more diversity in the ecosystem, which is
what's the
great.
fork called?
I can't remember off the top of my head. I will have to look it up, but they're focused on something slightly different way of doing it. But it's again, a fork. It's Tendermint based, so it's very similar. But yeah, I'll try and find that out for you.
It's very, very fascinating. So before we jump into the THORChain thing, just to tie up the whole thing, I will super quick for people. So THORChain is a decentralized exchange protocol, and I'm going to explain this in the shitty noob way, and then you can kind of add some more accurate flavor to it. But I'm just so people, basically it's like old school Shapeshift where you can swap a coin for another coin instantly, pretty much, and it runs on a decentralized architecture. There's swapping, which is important, and the other thing is to provide liquidity. Essentially, you can stake any coin supported and earn interest off of it. And so I believe I heard somewhere, and I've repeated this a couple of times, so please tell me if I'm absolutely wrong. Is the THORChain average exchange fee 0.2%? I heard that being mentioned. I don't know if it's a fixed thing.
I think it really depends, because there are slippage fees based on how much you purchase. If you if you make too big an order, it creates that market discrepancy. It has to get rebalanced, and they charge you a fee for that. But I'm not quite sure what the current average is. But that doesn't sound far off.
Yeah, and so essentially, if you have to go through one of these regulatory loophole type deals where you're swapping for, let's say, Litecoin, that then go into fiat, for example, if you have to do one of those, then the end user would be charged, let's just say 0.2% extra, I guess, or something like the actual. I'm not sure the end user, but the merchant, right? A very small extra bit, but Dash holders who are providing liquidity would be earning a portion of that because it all would go through THORChain. So then it's almost the more people are using THORChain to get around this special thing, Dash holders can actually make money off of Dash's lack of direct acceptance through these fiat off-ramp things in a weird sort of way.
Definitely, and all
Strange,
of these
isn't
are
it?
a platform as well. Like I'm like a big supporter in like open marketplaces. I believe
Mm-hmm.
that if, let's say, this is purely theoretical. I'm not like saying this is happening, but let's say DashDirect added Bitcoin support, which was
Mm-hmm.
maybe powered through THORChain swaps into Dash. Everyone that wants to use their Bitcoin on DashDirect has to wait for confirmations, or they don't get the same discounts at all
Mm-hmm.
because they're paying much higher fees. Like
Of
every
course.
single person that does that is then an opportunity to be converted to Dash. Like all
Mm-hmm.
of these opportunities are there, and anytime that we create that walled garden, we're not opening ourselves to them. And it's the same with what we're doing. As soon as we add Bitcoin support, there were people that are upset that we mentioned that, but as soon as we add Bitcoin support and we say, hey, you can just get this instantly with Dash, you pay lower fees, your customers pay lower fees, we've
Mm-hmm.
got these other systems, marketing support, whatever it is, then it's just much more appealing, and there is a real good opportunity for people to be converted to Dash. And I don't, like I like fostering that open ecosystem.
And so with that, you would be talking about Dash Direct slash CrayPay adding, say, for example, Bitcoin support.
Yeah, purely theoretical, but anywhere, for us to add it ourselves, or for CrayPay to add support for that kind of thing, even
Mm-hmm.
there are many ways that we can participate in this ecosystem and still Dash can shine in its particular space. There are people that want Dash to be everything, or want it to have smart contracts in this, but as long as it works with that ecosystem, we can be digital cash and true digital cash and focus on winning our race, without necessarily trying to be everything to all people. Not
Yeah.
that that we're not doing amazing stuff in those areas, but yeah.
So we did get a hyper chat, a super chat. It didn't. We actually got two, so only the latest one
Oh,
will show. So
okay.
I'm going to read one first.
Yep, go for it.
From Pozo, Pedro works with me with the marketing hub, right? He says, "Will you or THORChain notify us before the release so we can get our funds ready to stack it there?" Again, this is
Yeah, absolutely. So on the 4chain stuff, like we can cover this in a bit more detail, but yeah, the pull request to them is in progress. Once they accept our pull request, I can go into the details which are blocking that pull request right now.
mm-hmm,
Then we'll see that, and that'll be public. It's all public. They'll have merged that pull request, and then at that point, we can start. You could start building up Dash and Rune ready to add liquidity. After they accept the pull request, it's up to the nodes to merge and signal that they support Dash, and
mm-hmm,
then we do that voting period before the pool comes live every 3 days. Pools on 4chain churn, which means they'll look for the highest voted pool to
mm-hmm.
add into the system, and that we want that to be Dash Rune, but that's not a problem. The Dash Investment Foundation has sufficient Rune and Dash to make that happen, but people that want to make some money on this, that want to add that liquidity and want to help Dash get listed, that would be really good as well. And there will be more announcements. There'll be tweets coming out. There'll be posts from the incubator, and I imagine that will be that will also be sent via the main Dash channels as well, and the
Yes,
Dash community channel.
and Pozo also asked. He says, "By the way, if you need someone who speaks Spanish, he'd be more than happy to help out." And obviously, I will. If you've seen his work anywhere else, he's an absolute machine of a workhorse. So just that was in
Oh, I've seen
it's
one. Pozo, thank you for the Dash Direct videos. They're such a good shining example of showing Dash Direct to the world. But yeah,
yes.
they were very much appreciated.
And so that was in the super chat, which generally, personal stuff you don't kind of say that, but because he did, I figure, give him a little shout out here.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
hit this one here, right? I guess who this might be, but it's technically anonymous. Can you ask Ash about your Dash mobile wallet idea regarding the incubator concept that was approved by admins? Does Ash think it could be better incorporated in the DashPay extension or as a fork of the DashPay mobile? How hard would it be to maintain?
Interesting. On the idea, what were you looking to integrate again? Was it integrating 4chain or private send as well, wasn't it?
Yes. Basically, so it's funny. Sometimes the more you learn, the further complex your knowledge and stuff gets on some things, the simpler what you pursue or what you value becomes. And so it's just like, I don't know, you've seen that bell curve thing of like, like idiot is like make money. That whoa no you
Yeah,
gotta
yeah,
and at the
yeah,
end it just like the smart wizard make money. It's just like the simplicity. So we're going back to the simplicity thing of a wallet should do what people want, right? And so Dash people want to be able to use Dash. They want to be able to use Dash's special features, which Instant Send now everyone just has. It's just automatic. But CoinJoin is only in the official Dash core wallet and in Electrum, and the Electrum mobile one I cannot get it to mix for my life, and it's a terrible experience,
yeah,
honestly.
yeah.
So basically, it's so everyone has talked about is they want in-app staking, which obviously if you in the past with masternodes, it's just hard to like do that. And I hear rumor that the official Dash wallet is might be moving in the direction of CrowdNode, which is it's not trustless, right? But it's still like an option for basic people. But here's the thing: like every crypto user, if I want to talk to them, like, what is that? Oh, they all this stuff. I know that they would love a Dash wallet where they can stake. They can just like deposit into a staking something in the wallet, and they can mix and use it for regular purchases. And in my mind, adding CoinJoin and THORChain support accomplishes those, plus the extra thing of if you want to try out some Dash, you can deposit whatever other coin you have and it swaps into Dash into the wallet. And then you could possibly do the other way around. But just the basic swap in wallet, just so that people who don't
Yeah.
have Dash can still use Dash. So that's just kind of the vision, is basically the wallet as we have it today, the official one, plus the most easy access to what people want to do, which is people who don't have Dash want to try out Dash, make it as easy as possible. People who have Dash then want to stake it, and then they want to mix. That's it.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're all great ideas. And, we've discussed various parts to this before, but really, we have these current wallets. We have the Dash Pay wallet, we have the Dash Pay extension being worked on, we have the current Dash wallet. Realistically, as you highlighted, the UX for making instant send just for everyone by default was the best way about it. Like, let's
Yeah.
extrapolate the complexity, let's just make it happen. I would argue that we want to push for the same in whatever wallet implements private send. So it would either be, a checkbox, send privately, or my favorite idea for this, because I think it's a more maybe easier to accomplish, would be to have a wallet with multiple identities and just have an incognito wallet. Have a wallet where everything in and out is private send by default. Whenever you want to send anything private, just switch tabs into the
Yes.
incognito wallet.
That reminds me of another thing, because I actually asked around people, because the New Hampshire crypto community here, they're not a lot. Some of them are very typical crypto people, but most of them know very little about crypto in general, except for using it, and they're
Yeah.
way better at using it than anyone else. Like they just use it as money, and they don't really keep up with the headlines, right? And so that's why one reason why Dash is extremely heavy around here is because they don't look at the coin market cap rankings; they just use it.
They just use
And
it.
and one request I had from someone who manages a business that accepts Dash, for example, said that he likes the Bitcoin.com wallet because you can add like different sub wallets to it, right? That you can just add a pocket to this and that. And he'd like to be
Yeah.
able to do that the Dash wallet, to be like, this is Clubhouse Fund, this is the beer fund, or whatever. And first off, having that with usernames would be nice. I heard, again, this is where we get dicey as far as what comes out when, but I heard that that the Dash identities will be like the same wallet, which has like an identity, will be able to have on a protocol level multiple usernames, sub usernames under the identity. Now, I don't know how much of that on the protocol side is going to be possible for MVP, but that would be nice.
Yeah, I mean, regardless, like, it's easy enough to have multiple wallets without multiple usernames tied to one singular wallet. Really, as there are those three different wallets. I see the Dash Pay extension as the future of how most people will use Dash. I see the Dash Core Group wallet as being a very important for now, and it probably will be run alongside of it. They're really proactive at the moment. They're adding new features. They obviously have the DashPay usernames in it, but the
Mm-hmm.
DashPay extension it's a different way of approaching it, and I do think that it will have a bit more freedom to do exciting things like those, and hopefully we'll be able to get it there. Right now, the DashPay extension is focused as being more of a social wallet, so you can think of it as WhatsApp or Telegram or Signal, but with Dash sending and receiving and requesting all built in, so
Mm-hmm.
that you can talk to someone. You can say, "Hey, can you send me $5 for dinner last night?" and then request that. You can send those chats back and forth, but you can also have all your DashPay usernames. You can share
Mm-hmm.
contacts. You're fully onboarded. There'll be on ramps built in, exchanges built in, and yeah, I believe that a core feature that would be so useful there is that incognito wallet or the box to do a private send. Obviously with our way of doing a private send, that pre-mixing required, an incognito
Mm-hmm.
wallet feels like more easy to accommodate than necessarily just ticking a box that says private send, because then you've got to worry about your private send balance, your mixed balance.
Yeah. Well,
Whereas
that's
an
you're
incognito wallet, everything would be mixed.
you're not that far off from Evan's vision, which,
Mm.
obviously, like, there's always this founder mystique in crypto, especially Satoshi. And in fact, BSV's entire existence is all around, I would say, founder mystique type stuff, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
very
yeah.
Satoshi heavy as far as that. But a lot of Dash people even forgot who the hell Evan is, which is kind of strange and sad, but it's also heartening that the project has moved on despite him doing other things. But I remember in one of the later evolution demo things before Evan left, like towards the end of when he ended up leaving the Dash core team, he envisioned having a cash balance as well as like a public balance type thing. And you just move money into the cash balance and it just mixes there and it's there. And so this seems
Yeah.
like exactly a kind of thing where you just, like, already when I've used the core wallet to mix and stuff, I've just had it mixing, and then I just receive into it and it just automatically puts that back into the mixing. And especially just having a little like progress bar of like,
Oh yeah, yeah. Or
and
mixed
then I'm
funds pending, mixed funds available, whatever it is. It would be. There are definitely ways to accommodate this, and
yeah.
I think that whether it's done in its own independent wallet or part of the DashPay extension or
Mm-hmm.
however, it is really important, and it's something I value very highly. The DashPay extension is designed to be that more open-ended wallet. The DashPay wallet itself, the core DCG issued one, won't have that interaction with decentralized applications. Not yet, anyway. It's the DashPay
Mm-hmm.
extension, which is going to be available in different forms than just an extension, will be
Mm-hmm.
what you'll use to access those decentralized applications. So that's going to be where we really want that to be, not the flagship wallet in a way, because Dash Core Group's wallet is going to be the main sort of core implementation as a payments wallet. But this is going to
Mm-hmm.
be more extendable by nature, and it's going to have things like that social feature, like the decentralized application browser,
Yeah.
like the swapping engine, everything sort of like that built into it. And that's where private center, I think, would fit really well.
Yeah. What I would like, and so obviously as a long time, which year did you get involved in Dash?
2017. Yeah,
Yeah.
2017.
Like late in the year or mid year, something.
Yeah, well, I started getting involved like middle early of the year, and then I actually
Mm-hmm.
pushed in and I did a proposal in December 2017, I think it was.
Yeah. I think I was in a proposal late 2016, like mid 2016, I started to get interested. But as long timers, as we all both are, know, everything was, we'll just wait for Evo to be out and it'll all be in there. And
You said
the,
about Evan earlier, and it was
yes.
him. It was a particular Bitcoin Wednesday speech that he gave about the
Mm-hmm.
future of Dash that really sold me on Dash, and I've been a maximalist through and through since then on Dash.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been. It's definitely feels like we're on the verge of something, but everyone's been waiting so long. We're all just
Yeah.
waiting, but there's
And
so
so
much good stuff
the
happening.
idea, just to wrap up the super chat thingy, the idea
Yeah.
for this CoinJoin and THORChain wallet is kind of part of the reason is like, okay, well, eventually some of these features might be in the official wallet. And on the other side, eventually these features and a hell of a lot more will be in the extension wallet. And I'm targeting kind of, or I'd like to target a in between and possibly a not super long term, like a several year, but not like 10-year type thing,
Yeah, if
depending on
it's like
how
a
it works.
reference implementation where Dash Core Group can look at it and take what they've done, and same with the Dash Pay extension, that works as well. If it's an independent wallet that has its own functionality set that
Uh huh.
works. The only thing like I would ever be wary about, and the whole point of the incubator is that everything
Mm-hmm.
is open ended, MIT license, fully open
Yeah.
source, that these things are somewhat compatible. At the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day, that we're not overlapping and we're being efficient with the resources that the incubator has. So that's where
Well,
I
that
would focus it.
yeah. Well, as I said before, with the entire simplicity at the other end of the bell curve is just give people what they want. And
Yeah.
this is what I want for sure. This is what a lot of people who I try to tell about Dash want. And like, hey, what's the best mixing wallet? I hate that question because I don't have a good answer for them. And I'm tired of also saying wait a few years. Like in my view, if someone could just literally plagiarize, right? Like fork the official Dash wallet, right? With open source stuff, it's not plagiarizing, but whatever. Just literally copy paste that thing, put in THORChain and mixing, like, or even just
Yeah.
put in mixing in the next month or two. Okay, no way it would be done that soon, but you know what I'm saying. Like, put it in first, then put in THORChain, and then usernames, and then maybe a year and a half later the wallet gets sunsetted because other ones
I mean,
do all that stuff more. But just so
the
it fills
wallet's
those
open
needs.
source. You can do a pull request. You can say, hey, I
Yeah.
implemented thing, and the incubator can fund the development of that.
Yeah.
Really, there are different approaches, and who knows, maybe even,
Mm-hmm.
Dash Core Group themselves will work on how CoinJoin is done at the protocol level and make
Mm-hmm.
that easier for the front end to extrapolate and make
Yeah.
it hide it behind a really nice UX. But it's definitely a case of cart before horse sometimes, or there
Mm-hmm.
is a right way to do things and there's a way to do things right now, and I am keen to see it. I'm very keen to see it, but I know it is a complex project,
Mm-hmm.
with some grounds being given that it has actually already been built in a way by the My Dash wallet guys, even if there are issues there. It
Yeah.
is all possible. We know it's possible for a light wallet to do mixing and send that balance. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the good thing about the Dash Pay extension and anything the incubator is working on, or even Dash core groups, like an extra developer can come in. They don't have to worry about the UX side of things or a load of the other core functionality that would be needed for a wallet. And they
Mm-hmm.
can just build on top of the foundation that's already there. So fostering that collaboration and making that happen, saying,
Mm-hmm.
we've got this Dash Pay extension team, we're bringing in someone new who's going to be entirely focused on mixing.
Mm-hmm.
That would be great. That's
Mm-hmm.
a dedicated resource for that kind of thing would be great. And,
Yeah.
you know, efficiency on the multiple teams working together and finding that sort of collaboration.
Yeah. We got a hyper chat on Odyssey here from Abulu. He says, "Is it possible to automatically provide THORChain liquidity with a savings account on the Dash wallet?" And that is kind of the
Yeah.
that's kind of the purpose of the staking wallet, is to where you could automatically send, or not automatically, but like you could hit send to savings or whatever, and it just sends to the THORChain liquidity
Yeah.
pool
So
kind of
there's
thing.
there's two different two different approaches and two different Dash improvement proposals here. So
Mm-hmm.
the approach that you just mentioned, obviously providing liquidity for chain is a good way to make some money. And if we could
Mm-hmm.
make a system that does that, that'd be cool. Very complex, but possible.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is the trustless masternodes side of things.
Mm-hmm.
As we grow functionality on the network, there's still going to be more demand on masternodes, and having a trustless masternode setup, of which there are two Dash improvement proposals on dealing with this. In fact, it's possible to do a trustless masternode right now. It's just very complex. Um,
Yes.
that's the other approach, and it's a question of which one's going to come first. Obviously, I think the first thing above all of them is that custodial solution powered by CrowdNode or whomever.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'd look to build that trustless side of things in. I do think it could be an easy way to give people returns on their Dash by having them provide liquidity, because at some point the plan is by Christmas, by the start of next year, for THORChain to release their caps entirely, so there will be no liquidity caps.
That'll
So
shake things up.
that will shake things up, and it's kind of scary because we've seen hacks in the past. But at that point, maybe there is a good way. Maybe there are alternative ways to stake and make returns on your Dash, which is really what people want. They're not that fussed whether it's in a in a master node or in THORChain, as long as they've got some kind of loss prevention. Then yeah, they'll be happy. And I'm keen to offer people yield because people expect yield on their holdings. But I'm fine with either approach, and it's definitely something I'd invest more time in figuring out.
Yeah, well, let's officially hit into the THORChain stuff, because we basically danced around the entire thing, and there's just like a little bit left. So as far as the THORChain thing, basically you said end of year, early next year is kind of the good projection.
Yeah, hopefully. So right now we're done. The Dash integration is done. Like, that's done. We've got swaps working. We have local development.
How long did that take? How long did that take? You have
couple of months, 3 months,
one
maybe.
full-time employee doing that, right?
Yeah, 3 months, I'd say. That's
so 3 months for one person.
Yeah, 3 months.
So
and that's chain locks based. So any transaction that comes in with the chain lock is recognized and finalized effectively.
Without chain locks, how long would this have taken? Is it 2 months maybe? Would it be 1 month?
Yeah, probably a short amount of time. The chain locks meant that our local development, we had to create Alex had to create a masternode quorum that communicated with each other, a Genesis miner, wait until the masternode quorum started issuing chain locks. It was just a very complex process, and it's still proving time intensive, because there's one more thing THORChain have asked us to do before they'll merge our pull requests. So that's what Alex is working on at the moment. But yeah, I'd say 2 months, maybe less, without chain locks. But yeah, this is all something where it's new, and Alex is learning it, and their docs aren't perfect, and there have been, throughout this process, because they've had hacks, they've changed how their system works, so he has to go back and revise things. Like, it's a very actively progressing project, so it requires a lot of attention and time.
Yeah, and so just what is the process of being added to THORChain? So you have to write the implementation basically, and then
so there's a few different bits to the implementation. Yes. So they have, they've got their own THORChain Explorer, they've got their nodes, they've got their transaction scripts that interpret transactions coming in. Like, there's a fair bits there. Alex even had to look at learning Flutter to make something work on his end. So most of that stuff's done. So Dash is functional and trading on our local machines, and it works. The big blocker right now is that they've asked us to add it to a sort of deployment script that would help node operators deploy Dash to AWS or Kubernetes, via Kubernetes or DigitalOcean or any of these providers. So they've asked us to do that, which is not directly related to the Dash integration, because Dash works and node operators don't really need this. This is like an extra feature that they've asked us to do. So we're already done. We're done, and we're pending. Right now, they've got a few things which are above us in priority. So they recently disabled impermanent loss protection on their system. And anytime a bug comes in, anytime like a chain has to be frozen, that's immediately higher priority than adding a new chain. So we're beholden to them on that. Realistically, as soon as we complete this cluster script, deployment script, they'll be adding us and accepting our PR. Then all the nodes, the validator nodes, of which there are like 300, but only 99 active at one time, will update their software, and they'll have Dash support. And once an amount of them, I think it's something, I think it's 60, it's probably like 2/3, signal that they support Dash, then Dash is available to start seeding the liquidity. At that point, once we start seeding the liquidity, we are then in that 3-day churn cycle of the highest asset that gets added. Should be pretty easy. By the way, great note on the diff. The diff acquired a lot of rune at a lot less than it currently is trading at. So the diff has done quite nicely on their rune, which is a great thing. So at that point, everyone can start adding liquidity. They won't earn any rewards on it until it's active, and then once the pool's active, then anyone can use THORChain or any of the other front ends to THORChain, potentially even Shapeshift. They have a THORChain integration to swap Dash with other assets on THORChain, and it's not like people might look at PancakeSwap and SushiSwap, meaning that every pair has a pool. But the difference with THORChain is you only need the pair to be with Rune. So it'll go Dash to Rune and then Rune to whichever other asset. So that's how THORChain does it, which is a lot easier
Cleaner.
than having to pool a Dash BTC, a Dash LTC, a Dash AF, all of these things pools.
Yeah, and so the context for this question, of course, is I have been using the library network for many years, and the problem has always been people want to get like the token part of it is what doesn't really work super well, not technically. It works fine on a technical basis, but it's just the ecosystem thing. Part of this is because library is being sued by the SEC right now, and so no one wants to touch the token, and so getting in and out is difficult. Like, so for example, they were going to enable people to support you with like a credit card, and that would just buy library tokens and then send it there. But because they can't do that, now they actually, the Odysee website, right, which is the biggest project on top of library blockchain, they have like a Stripe integration, so you can like pay people fiat and it ends up fiat, which is it's a little sad to see. I mean, it's a great thing. It's just a little sad to see that they couldn't.
It's good that Stripe have accommodated that, to be fair. Like, historically, Stripe have said, hey, we like crypto, but we don't like crypto.
Well, they're not touching crypto at all. It's just a YouTube as far as they're concerned.
But it's still a
crypto adjacent.
Adjacent project, which is interesting. But so library,
So what would a library have to do, and I guess by extension any other project, to get on THORChain? And obviously you went through the thing,
really
but how much
depends.
would it cost them, really?
So, you're thinking the expertise blockchain developers, however much, 250K a year for ones, and then you divide that down. It depends on the project, really. If it's a Ethereum, an ERC20 token, it's very easy. A script is about 20 lines for the transactions, and any ERC20 token can get added. Same with any Binance Smart Chain token, very easy. Bitcoin forks are also relatively easy. If it's completely its own chain or a very modified Bitcoin fork, that becomes more complex. Dash was, Dash is BTC derived, so it was easy in some senses, but then a huge amount of complexity comes in when you think about chain locks, and Dash has its own relative where it's at compared to BTC back forks and things, and it's gone its own way. So it very much depends on the project. I would say most projects are looking about a few months of development with maybe 60 to 80K budget, really. A competitor to us in a way. We were, at the same time we were developing the Dash integration. When I say we, I'm the admin on the incubator project, but Alex is doing all the work, so deserves all the credit. Was Decred, and their integration is basically there. It's kind of stagnated because I don't know quite what their developer's waiting on. I think there's a request for him to do a similar thing as what we're doing, and Decred budgeted $100,000 for the development of their integration. But it wasn't even Decred. It was an independent Decred investor who set a bounty for the Decred edition.
It's funny, as a random aside, which not super relevant, but Decred made me think of, Decred's been pumping their atomic decks a lot. They've been talking a lot about that's like their big offering, and like I was thinking, like, we got to get Dash on that thing too, because you got to get Dash everywhere. And then I was also thinking, like, liquidity decks versus atomic decks. The atomic decks, it sounds horrendously clunky to I'm not talking shit here, by the way. I'm just, from the thing is, like, if I want to swap Dash for Decred, I have to have a certain amount of Dash. I want that Decred for that rate. You have to find the exact pairing of people with those situations, lock it in, and then swap it. Whereas with liquidity, you just chuck it into the pool and you get what you want out. Like, it's just that easy.
You don't have to worry about this peer matching process. And I think it's kind of like more of realizing the limits of decentralized exchange, and they're taking
Mm-hmm.
the easier solution rather than THORChain, which is a more complex solution, but it is really elegant. And I know they've had issues, but I do think that THORChain's going from strength to strength, and Dash being one of the first movers in terms of, UTXO based chains to
Mm-hmm.
actually get added is just really strong for us. I think it's one of the best things. I would say this, like, it's one of the best things Dash is doing at the moment, other than obviously Dash Pay
I think
usernames
so.
and things
Yeah.
like that. So I think it's huge for us. So very
Well,
supportive,
so
and
on.
we've been really well received. Like, when we've spoken about it, people have reached out to me for asking more
Mm-hmm.
about Dash and Instance End, and it shows Dash is still very relevant, and a mover in the space, which it is, and it's nice to be recognized for that.
Yeah, and I am like I cannot wait until Dash is on THORChain for a lot of different
Yeah.
reasons. Part of which is like those mad gains, or whatever, the liquidity
Oh
stuff.
yeah,
Because
I'm going to be adding some liquidity there, definitely.
I
Oh, by the
already
way,
do.
people, just so everyone knows,
Yes,
you have to, when it's pooling, you have to add your liquidity has to be equal. I've forgotten the
yes.
word.
It gets
Synchronized? I don't
split
know, but
50-50 with
it has
Rune,
to be 50-50 for Rune and Dash. That's
which
just how it works when it's
which is
pooling.
funny because I threw like a few $100 of Ethereum
Symmetrical.
in
That's the one.
like a few months ago, and that like it's almost that turned out it's doing okay now, but like at the time it turned out to be a horrendous decision short term because I mean I just had Ethereum lying around I wanted to throw in, so I threw in before I could get, obviously it splits 50-50, right? Before I could get a single penny in fees, in trading fees for that, then all the hacks happened, and so it was down for several months, and Ethereum. So then the Rune token went down in value. Ethereum went like a rocket ship. So it was like, HODL LP versus HODL thing was just like enormously in the red. And I was like, oh, I
Yeah, it's just
screwed up.
like balance.
But
Yeah.
but now it's almost caught up to what HODLing would be. But anyway, that's just a fun anecdote on that whole
Well,
thing.
like I said earlier, the diff dollar cost averaged into
Mm-hmm.
Rune from Bitcoin. For a point, it couldn't trade at all because we were buying it on THORChain,
Mm-hmm.
which meant that we were frozen out because THORChain froze everything. But
Mm-hmm.
that was our dollar cost averaging price for the diff was around $7, and now it's near $14. The diff's done really well there, and it's something where, yeah, again, having that facility to do that is just great. And yeah, everything ties in really nicely.
So regarding, before we switch gears to the diff and then the incubator, then wrap this whole thing up, the the diff on the, what is the diff going to do with all that Rune? So they got the Rune
Yeah.
specifically to have enough liquidity on there to make sure it actually kicks in. But so the diff, it's still, diff owns that Rune, and so they're going to dump the liquidity in there, and then they'll just, I guess, treat it as an investment and get fees on that. Is
Yeah,
that
I mean,
what they'll
it's not
do?
something we've extensively discussed the long term.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, obviously, the diff will make the yield from the liquidity, and right now they're
Mm-hmm.
profiting nicely off the price of Rune going up.
Mm-hmm.
Long term, if there is enough liquidity in the thing, then the diff might remove funds from the market, but I doubt it. I think the diff will probably just keep that yield in there and hold the Rune and the Dash inside the pool in equal measures. Right now, we're overbalanced into Rune, so we'll probably rebalance back into Dash, so we're 50-50 exposure, which
Yeah.
is what we have to do anyway. So I do think the diff will probably, keep the Rune in there. It's not a decision that's been made, so I'm just speaking as what I think might happen. But yeah, I think the Rune would probably end up staying in there.
Okay, so purely diff related now. So the diff seems to, I would say again, I don't want to, the second iteration of the diff is where all the things really hit the stride, it feels like. And
Yeah, just be clear, when I'm speaking, I want to make it clear that I'm speaking as myself, not
yes.
as the diff. Yeah.
Well, yes, anyway. So the diff has seems to have done a lot of interesting things, a lot of good decisions. I mean, obviously we like, obviously DashDirect was, a flagship piece that it did, and that's like the hottest, one of the hottest things going for Dash right now. Obviously it was instrumental in THORChain, which is still progressing, but it's still made a lot more on the Rune than would have made on just holding the Dash, for example. It seems that's fair to say.
Yeah.
What, like BitFi and stuff. I mean, that's a little bit more that's a little more unproven at this point, but it still seems awesome to
Yeah.
all the merchants that got on board because of that. Now, Valkyrie was the interesting one because it's like, oh, way to get our Dash trust there and all that kind of stuff. But then first off, Valkyrie, the since the from the seed round to the various like rounds, the fundraising rounds they've had, seems to have done phenomenally well. But after that, having, I believe, or one of the first two Bitcoin ETFs, if not the first one, on Valkyrie, with what is it, BTFD or whatever their little ticker was. It
Yeah,
was like
yeah,
something.
BTFD.
It was
Yeah,
something
it's a good
hilarious like
ticker.
that.
It's
But
a clever ticker. Yeah.
so it seems like that is got to be up several fold just based on what you're able
Yeah,
to tell.
I mean, realistically, like you value companies what they raise, and the diff's investment there has gone up a significant amount, and that's not the only case.
Mm-hmm.
There are many cases where, well, there's several cases where the diffs had opportunities. Like, I don't want to divulge
Mm-hmm.
any
Of
specific ones,
course.
but you've mentioned this one, and it's public record what these companies raise in a
Mm-hmm.
way, and we got in an earlier round. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we have increased the value of our holdings in those companies and the value of our equity in those various companies. So yeah, it's the diff is doing very well, and considering what you'd expect for a VC sort of to make on its returns and how many bad versus good, the diff is
Mm-hmm.
doing very well. I mean, we're all a team of volunteers. When we say
Mm-hmm.
DashDirect, Ryan was invested a huge amount of time in that. He still maintains an advisory role with the diff,
Mm-hmm.
and all of this takes a lot of time. And I'm really happy, and the caliber of the opportunities that are presented to us is phenomenal. Like, we're spoiled for choice, really. And there are future announcements coming. I'm not quite sure what I can divulge. Probably nothing. But they are really positive, and
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll be really well received by the network as well. I don't want to announce the announcement as a risk, but yeah, there's good stuff
Yeah.
happening, and
It.
there's good stuff happening every week. We have 2 long phone calls a week typically, where we go over the business or we get pitched to, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of good there.
So now let's the original purpose from what the benefits of the diff are, of course, invest in the greater Dash ecosystem. And so I guess the idea is you throw all this money from the treasury at the diff and it invests in things that improve Dash's value because of the ecosystem, as well as accrues like balance sheet value. And so
Yeah,
from the value accrual of like, it's great to have a fund, a trust that the Dash trust you can invest, the boomers can invest in, so to speak.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
great
and
to have
the
that.
funds and the family trust and all that. Yeah,
Yes. DashDirect is great to have out there. And obviously, as it makes money and stuff, then that increases the. And BitFi is great to have. Like, all these are great to have. Um, and at the same time as we see all this awesomeness happening, there's so much like whinging in certain like master channels about we lost another ranking today, or like, oh, it's doing so poorly, the price isn't doing as well. Like, there's these interesting dichotomies, right? Now,
yeah.
at what point this is more obviously, you speak more for yourself than the diff in this stuff, but this is just like an open thought consideration. At what point does the diff sell the things that it turned Dash into that have done way better than Dash to pump up the Dash price? Like, that's kind of.
Yeah.
I
I
remember
mean,
Ryan at one point said something about like they would buy Dash and burn it or something, but it's probably like you just sell the stuff that you have for Dash. You buy the dip and Dash, I
honestly, I
guess. But
think if the diff takes an exit, it's more likely to reinvest those funds, and
mm-hmm,
leverage those funds for something. I don't see personally, I don't see that much value in buying the Dash, and the market
mm-hmm,
effect that would have. I think there's more healthy news for the diff making an exit, and I think that's more important. Maybe the diff would use some funds. I don't know what the other supervisor would vote for. I would vote to leverage those funds for the network, by reinvesting in more companies, and
mm-hmm,
becoming a full, especially for our first exit. Later on exits,
mm-hmm.
maybe then it makes more sense to buy Dash, but the actual power, that buying power of having those funds would be very valuable to the diff, because we're turning away opportunities at the end of the day. And by having an exit, which I'm really excited for whenever that first exit is, and there has been some opportunity for exit, but not to the degree that would make sense,
Yeah.
Yeah, once that happens, the news there will be really good, and we'll have to leverage that. I can't speak to the drops on CoinMarketCap. I do know that the market is very hype driven, and we fall short on the hype quite often. Particularly, you look at things like Shiba Inu and Co. That it's very interesting how people value those assets, and it is a case of valuing by how much money they can make on them, rather than any sort of true functionality. I just keep urging people to hold fast and look at the good. We definitely have to get better at marketing that good, and
Yeah,
spreading that
it's what
around.
I'm trying to help with, but there's
Yeah,
so few of
you
us
know,
still.
we've got a month until release. Well, 2 months until release candidate. On the network for Dash Pay, and then hopefully in the following 6 months following that, we'll see LiveNet, mainnet, and we'll see decentralized applications and this social wallet, which I really believe in the value. We'll have THORChain. There is so much. We are firing on all cylinders, even if we're not being recognized for that. And I know that people have issues and complaints, and they're just like, "Hey, this person isn't doing this well enough." But there is so much good to be seen, and I have more confidence in Dash than I've really ever had by being an active investor in it, by being actively involved in the incubator, in the diff as a trust protector, you know, and through my own work, it is the best digital cash. Like, it is so good for payments, and that is a cornerstone of crypto usage. Whether the hype moves on from NFTs to DeFi to Shiba Inu making mad gains, like, there is a big argument to be said for fundamentals, and I maintain that belief very strongly.
So this goes back to a question that I saw in that was seen in the discords, and then later I posed to the diff, and I believe it was Sven who answered about it was like a possible thing. But I just want to bring that up on air and get your individual take. People remember when Ryan Taylor said he went to New York City and talked to a bunch of investors, and they were all like super uneducated about Dash, and they're kind of blown away a little bit, and like that whole thing. Ryan's just one guy, and he's got a million things going on. And people have talked about maybe Dash Core Group hiring a full-time investor relations kind of person, if not,
Yeah.
to pitch Dash as an investment, or at least to educate. And Ryan's response on that was something from memory, right? Some people might have caught up, but like from memory, it was something along the lines of, we were extremely careful about this beforehand because of the SEC. And now, because it's pretty obvious that Dash is not a security and the SEC does not believe it is, it's a lot easier to be able to pitch Dash as an investment with more regulatory clarity. And so basically cleared up that part of things. And the other side of things, Dash Core Group already does a lot of things. And whether it's for decentralization purposes or dissatisfaction in performance or whatever else you want to call it, a lot of people have said, well, why not let something like the diff do something like that? And obviously, this is not a diff role. There's like the supervisors or volunteers, they don't have enough time. They're doing a great job. I don't want to mess that thing up. For freak's sake, I don't want to mess that thing up. That being said, what do you think of the idea, as Sven seemed to indicate that this is an interesting idea and it's a possibility of the diff hiring someone, because the diff is more in the investment world, whereas DCG is focused on a completely different area, to just hire a full-time person or two or whatever to eventually to run around and just basically talk to all the rich old guys and tell them to buy Dash in a very crass way of
like we said before,
it.
the rich old people, the Dash ETF, like with looking at Valkyrie and things like that. Like, I don't see it within the scope of the diff, but I do see it as important, and it could be within the scope of the diff. Like, it could be, it's tangential, it is related. The diff might be seen as a competitor to some of these funds, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's something where I don't have much experience in that world of finance, whereas Ryan does, and I would defer to him on that side of things. It would be interesting to see. I do think that just a few of those sort of family trusts or large scale investors could shift the needle on Dash, price, coin market cap position
Mm-hmm.
significantly. And I do feel we're doing ourselves a disservice if we don't approach that. I think, it can't be Ryan because he's too busy, but if they could hire
Yeah.
someone, or someone independent is even watching this and is interested in doing that for Dash, there's definitely funding going to be made available for that. I'm sure the network would fund it, or DCG
Mm-hmm.
would potentially fund it, or another participant in the network. It is valuable, and I would like to see that. Yeah, I would definitely like to see that.
Yeah, and last sort of diff question, which sort of goes back to the whole what do you do with gains? Do you sell all the diff stuff to pump the dash price, or do you reinvest? At that, so let's imagine a situation where the diff continues to its track record of being excellent, and also Dash continues. Let's just say, maybe being dramatic by saying this, but continues to underperform the market in the coming bear market as well. At some
Yeah.
point, funds get tight. The diff is, as you mentioned, it'd be better to reinvest rather than sell to pump the price or whatever. Now, at what point could the diff become self-sufficient and not really put in treasury
Yeah.
proposals and
I mean, that's the
purely
point, isn't it? I think
reinvest?
that's the point. Once
Yeah.
an exit happens, we'd be hoping for millions. And at that point, does the treasury, is there any more point in the treasury funding it? It depends at the scale the treasury is operating at.
Of course.
All these things, like, I'm not saying it's a definitive answer that the diff wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
use its first exit to buy Dash, because maybe we'd look at modeling that. And there's a very talented mathematician who currently
Oh,
works his arse off on the diff,
no. No
as the
way.
chair, who could help us model the value of
Mm-hmm.
buying a significant amount of Dash using our exit, and how that would affect our funding level if we continue to get receive Dash from the treasury. That would be interesting to see. But I
Mm-hmm.
do think at the point of an exit, then it wouldn't necessarily make much sense for the network to throw too much money at the diff. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I would hope that from a significant exit, or maybe even two exits, we'd have enough funding to be self-sustaining. There's a certain point, obviously, where we'd like to hire expertise in,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I would love that to be, as soon as possible. I'd love to get a nice exit. I'm sure we all would, and it would be really good for the network as well. But the fact is, all the investments that we made so far, they're growing in value. Like, we've not had a duff exit investment yet, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, and so the final thing we'll hit on is just the incubator.
Yeah.
And before going to any specifics, just generally, what's going on over there?
Yeah, I think the incubator's slowed down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's this sort of limbo that we're in around DashPay,
Mm.
and there's just been a little bit of a slowdown. Obviously, there has been some more internal working on the incubator that's happening, which doesn't uh, lead itself to a very sort of, hey, look at us, look what we're doing. And improving those internal processes in terms of developer onboarding, how we manage projects and things like that is very important, but it's just not very snazzy. It's not something that we can shout about too much.
Mm-hmm.
The DashPay extension is something where I might get told off for how much I've talked about it, because it is something I really believe in and I'm really
Of
passionate
course.
about, and I'm a little worried. We've always been a little bit worried about overpromising,
Mm-hmm.
and people need to realize it's a big project, and it is. I see it as the future of even crypto in general, that you can use a social wallet to chat and send money, and it's just a different way of approaching it. That you have all your Dash Pay contacts, you
Yeah.
can communicate to stores, like businesses are using WhatsApp Web now. Like, all of this stuff is huge for Dash in time, but Dash has a history of overpromising. We've seen the evolution when Evo side of
Mm-hmm.
things, and I think there's a fear of doing that within the incubator, and we have to be cautious about how much we show. Like, right now, there's so much I could show you about the DashPay extension, and you can see it; it's all public.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of that is visual. A lot of that doesn't, show the grueling development work ahead of us to actually get it to a live production application. And at this point, it's better to under promise and over deliver than the other way around. And I do think the THORChain alone is a huge value for the incubator to be working on, and that should be the PR should be live on that soon, and then that's a huge win for the incubator.
Yeah, I mean, from the way I am seeing what the incubator's done, it's kind of funny because if you look at just the number of bounties that have gone through, and let me expand this to the marketing hub, which works in a very similar sort of a way. I would probably say incubator more so because it's been around longer, but the vast majority of these things have not produced like significant fruit, and just it doesn't mean they haven't been worked on, doesn't mean they weren't good ideas, it doesn't mean that they won't necessarily, but it's more of a, you throw a lot of stuff at the wall and see what happens. Just you see more of the stuff that happens that's being worked on.
There's a lot of reference projects there. There's a lot of stuff that is in that limbo state. We've got a payments API, we've got a gaming platform, we've got a decentralized application hosting system. Like all of this is just like, okay, we'll just sit here until DashPay is delivered to some degree. A lot of it is there as reference projects. It's there for, the payments system isn't really designed to be a standalone payment service. It's designed for an application to say, oh yeah, I'm going to take that Docker image for the payment system and integrate it in my decentralized application. Like it's not, all of this stuff is islands that haven't been fully, or ingredients that haven't been fully put together into something that's, its own standalone service, which hopefully pending DashPay will get to the stage where we can start wrapping these projects together, and the DashPay extension is one of the core examples of that. And the incubator is supposed to be, it was the platform incubator. It's not, it has taken on other projects. THORChain is outside the scope of platform, but it is the platform incubator, and it was our core focus to get a roster of decentralized applications and associated projects ready for platform launch, which is still really true to the case of the incubator.
Yeah, and that's, as I was saying, like there's just a million things that look like they're just throwing shit against the wall, see what sticks. But if I think the incubator can easily justify all its funding with THORChain, the extension project, and the thing that no one really talks about anymore because it's, I guess, far enough off still, is Djembe, right?
Yes,
which I've been kind of involved with in consulting sort of capacity since the beginning, because I'm on Twitter all the time and I want something better than Twitter to use. I've been going back and forth on,
Djembe's
a bunch of
huge,
stuff.
and it's just sitting there. It's something that is, again, the lead dev on Djembe, Dash Amateur, is the lead dev on the DashPay extension. So this is all very tied into his work. He's building the tool that is used to access Djembe, obviously all powered by behind the scenes by Dash platform, but the Dash core group's DashPay wallet has no decentralized application support. It's not built for that. That's not its role. Whereas the whole DApp ecosystem, including Djembe and all the others that have sort of started work on or at some stage of life, they're all reliant upon DashPay extension. So, once that's sort of at a stage where can circle back around to Djembe, and obviously we have some design work being done on Djembe amongst other things at the moment.
We have a logo and a brand identity, and I'm excited about it. But, that's a little, kind of footnote thing. The thing that I think that is the best thing about the incubator, honestly, is that every project in the ecosystem, not every, let's be honest, but like a lot of them seem to have like the core protocol, right? They get the core protocol being worked on, and then just everything that people want, they just start building on top of it, right? Like Bitcoin Cash had a huge, after the fork, had a, depends on which fork, right? But had a huge explosion. I wouldn't say huge, but it had an explosion of like activity of like, oh wow, let's build a messenger on this thing. Oh, let's build this flip starter thing that does this. Oh, let's build this. Oh, well, let's do like a coin join thingy. And like people start filling that stuff out. And I feel like in the past, people just asked Dash Core Group, hey, when are we gonna? And we're laser focused on blah blah blah, which they should be, right? But there's just been this giant deficit in the Dash community of building the cool shit, right? Building around the core
There's a lot of
protocol.
tinkerers. Like there's a lot of people
Yeah.
creating cool shit. Like there's the WhatsApp project, which is
Yeah.
a protocol for decentralized communication on Dash platform and encrypted
Yeah. They need a
communication.
better
Like
name,
if
but
you're
yeah.
building a project and you need, oh, okay, I'm building a
Mm-hmm.
shopping app and I need a way
Yeah.
that merchants and customers can talk to each other. Oh yeah, I'm going to grab that from there. They've done a full Dash improvement proposal and they've written this whole architecture for it that is wrapped up in a way that I can interface with. I'm just going to work with that. And it's
Mm-hmm.
all of this stuff is very hard to say to the network, like, hey, look at this. It's just like, oh, but what does that mean for me? Like right now, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean a lot for you. Like right now, it's not going to do anything for you, but this is the future and this is the foundation that we're building on. And yeah, it's hugely exciting, but it's very hard to bottle up my enthusiasm for Dash and what we're doing in these various different verticals and give it to people. Like this is an opportunity for me to do that, but I wish there were more, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the cool things where kind of the evolution of the game, where Dash is one of the first projects where you could decentralized projects you could work for, right? Because you got
Yeah.
Dash
Yeah.
core group hiring and people put in other proposals, and now we're sort of expanding out to a situation where you can kind of do a lot of things like Dash core group hires, and then if you want to tinker around some random dev work, or if you're in that space like me who
Or if
doesn't
you're
do any
marketing,
development,
yeah.
and then of course we have the Dash marketing hub. If you want to help, we already have a team of social media people coming on board to like do social media accounts and stuff like that. We have a bunch of people creating content of videos of spending Dash and stuff. There's going to be an an instant send ad exchange ad instant or chain locks like Twitter campaign thing that's coming up. There's like a lot of really cool stuff that just anyone can do, and I think there's a lot of creative people where it's great to be able to bounce around. Like, obviously I do this show. This show is not at all affiliated with anything. No treasury money comes from here, right? This is just the thing I do for Dash, and people send me some donations for it. But also, it's on my channel, which is the thing that I do on my own that has nothing to do with Dash specifically. But then at the same time, I'm tinkering over there in the incubator, like saying, "Oh, can I write this spec for this? Can I do that?" Like every once in a while, when the fancy strikes me, and then I'm helping run this Dash marketing hub. Started it, but now I'm one of 3 running it, and I get to like do that and not just run, but like, oh, I want to do this. And then you can jump in and specifically do these few things, and then you get bored or tired and you're on to a different thing. It kind of, I like that Dash through the incubator and the hub especially, but also just the rest of the ecosystem is a framework for people to just jump in and like do
And it's
whatever,
so transparent as well. Like it's
yeah.
so open. Like I love that radical transparency. It's great. Like every bit of work that's produced is open.
Mm-hmm.
Every bit of funding is just, yeah, it's just great. I really appreciate that, the model that Andy originated, that's been
Yeah.
taken and now replicated. It's just, yeah, really great.
And I got a thank you super chat here. Thanks for being great to me. Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Anonymous
You
person.
are a great
Or
voice for the community.
or well, thank you for being Mr. Atlas holding the whole thing up. And I like to say that because like
My life is in Dash. Like my life, like I got into this and I'm so invested in this. I don't have as much Dash as I would like. If you'd like to send me some money, just send me a message. But I live this. I live this through and
mhm.
through. Like I come into work in the morning and first thing I'm doing is Dash. And at the end of the day, I'm on my phone looking at Dash things. Like it is my life, and I really appreciate the opportunity from the network to make it my life and to do all these things. And I really appreciate all the different players, yourself included, but everyone else that puts so much time into this and believes in this, like I do. It's just really good.
Well, let me semi conclude with a mini speech about like value and all values belief, and then have a question with that as context for you. Okay, so the big thing is a lot of people in crypto today they're price crazy. What makes me money? And a lot of people, especially I believe in Dash, don't remember the $7 Dash or like I do or whatever. They remember the $1,600 Dash, and they remember the glory days of 2017, and are like, today, oh, dead project, like because of that stuff, right? And
Yeah.
you can't tell them they're wrong. I have to say, you can't just like, nah, you shouldn't care. Like, you can't tell people what they should care about, and people trying to make sense of price performance versus utility. And I like to say that all value is belief, is the great Chuck Williams is fond of saying, right? All value is belief, and when people people will pay money to get what they want. That's literally, again, we're going to the other end of the bell curve thing, right? Where it's just at a high level, but it's super simple. People will pay money to get what they want, and they will buy Dash if it lets them do what they want. And
Yeah.
people largely, like, there is a lot of utility in Shiba Inu, I have to say, because people want to be able to make a return on their investment, and it is a tool for them to be able to do that. Of course, it's a high risk tool, and of course, I think it's a temporary tool. I don't imagine it being the good for that. Bitcoin, they want the same thing in a much safer way. They want to put money in, and they want it to just not be destroyed by inflation, hopefully go up a little bit. And so when you're seeking the valuation of Dash to go up, you want, what I like to put out the hashtag utility ATH, utility all time high. Chase the new utility all time high, and like the rest follows in a certain way. So when you're wondering why is Dash not doing as well, you got to solve that problem. You got to solve that. How do you give people what they want so they'll buy Dash to do it? And so, for example, like if you have a ton of THORChain trading volume, right? Then people who provide liquidity on THORChain make a lot of money. And then they would buy Dash because they're able to make money by just holding it, kind of, because there's all that traffic on THORChain, therefore a lot of fees, therefore a lot of that. That all works out. So with that whole context, where do you see we can do the biggest improvements to make Dash more useful to actually generate more real users that then ends up translating long term into price action? But that's just kind of like the sweet payoff at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I see all of this as this big sort of equation. And in chemistry, you have your reaction energy, and you've got your catalysts, and you've got to see what the demand is, and also lower that barrier to entry. And there are multiple aspects along this journey, among anyone's journey into Dash. And if we can make it more accessible, that's great. But also, demand and greater desire to get something means people have more energy to overcome the hurdles on the way to acquisition. So there's a couple of bits to it. In terms of price, everyone wants to see number go up. Everyone wants to see that. I want to see that. I'm keen to see that. I think we're laying the work to do that. I don't quite know how we get to that hype level where it's being talked about on TikTok and whatever, and people are like, "Oh, buy this coin, you make loads of money."
I'm talking about on TikTok.
Yeah, I'm talking about every Doge and his mother. But really, I think there are a few bits to that. I think a redenomination, however that's approached, would help. I know that's a touchy subject, but I think people like to have that whole number figure, and they like to be like, "Oh, it's going to go to $1," and there's a significant psychological side to it. I do think things like that can actually draw hype to a coin, that can hype begets hype, that you get more hype by triggering some level of hype. And if we used that as a tool to draw attention to Dash platform, that would help as well. But really, the savings aspect is one thing. People want to make yield, so giving an easy way to make yield, making it really simple for people to send money to each other, like all of these things are useful. But everyone's got a different need for Dash. I mean, the biggest need for most people is to make money. That's what they care about in crypto. For some people, it could be remittance. For some people, it could be the freedom and the escape from the value of their money going down. But most people I know don't see it as that. They see it as more of a way to make money. And in a way, we have to find our positioning in that hype as well, that that Dash is going up, and it's going up for whatever reason it is going up, whether that is because people are appreciating the utility that it has in it. but
Yeah.
it is very much a bandwagon effect. By growing and drawing attention to ourselves and marketing ourselves on our growth, then
Mm-hmm.
we create more growth, and it's self-fulfilling. It's a perpetual motion, like it's a flywheel that we just need to keep spinning and putting in the work, really.
Yeah. And I, for one, have been pushing people on DashDirect because it's one of those tools. It's one of those cases because I've been
Yeah,
using Dash
save money.
forever.
Save money. That's your
But
living. Like, that's your income. Like, if you can save 5%, of your income, that's amazing. That's a great figure.
yeah, so the biggest thing I noticed, we did a Twitter poll, and what would make you use Dash for everyday money? And the biggest response was earn it as salary. Now, as far as I'm able to tell, very soon Coinbase is coming out with a competitor to Bitwage where you could just get your salary in Dash then. And that would help a lot. But obviously, getting paid in other ways. It's the thing with Dash Direct, as I just mentioned, is it seems to really provide, it really seems to generate return customers. Whereas Bitrefill, people tried it out for a couple of weeks, and then Masternode owners would just like keep
Yeah.
training their wives to use it to like cash
The
out the
UX
rewards.
is nice. It's
Yeah, but Dash
easy.
Direct is like
It's easy to use.
works.
Yeah, that's what we need. More of that in various ways. And the way to make the savings on the thing, you want to be making the savings on your money, and you want to get a discount when you purchase. Like, all of this is like all goes together, and it needs to be global as well. Just being in the States is great, but there is a huge audience globally for that. And
Yeah,
there's other applications as well, like we said about earning money. Like, global workforce is available. It's hard to pay people internationally, and it'll be a lot easier with products like Bitwage, but everything like that. So the more we do that, the better. Maybe even marketplaces for that kind of work, which the incubator can build. Whatever it is, there's a lot there.
yeah, that might be just a random thought that came from that. There's like 4 or so mayors around the U.S. who are taking their salary in Bitcoin now, or at least starting to. And I wonder if we could
Marketing.
I wonder if we could create a bounty of some sort to pay someone to take it in Dash, like give them a bonus if they took it in Dash and just have them do it. It's just a random thought. I don't
I'd
know if
rather
it's,
someone did it because
you
they
know,
believed in us than they were making
yeah,
a quick buck.
yeah,
And
because
I
that
don't
would
think
come to service.
we're at that stage. I think there maybe in New Hampshire that would be more of the case. Somewhere who believes in that freedom of libertarianism sort of side of things.
Maybe I could get,
They might be
because
easier.
I know quite a few state representatives around here. Maybe I could get one of them to just take their $100 a year that they're paid and take it in Dash.
Yeah,
Whatever,
who
something
knows?
like that. All right, it's good to wrap up. Where should I tell people to follow you or your work the most? Like, where's the best place to go?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I'm not. I'm heads down. I'm very
So,
busy, so I'm not actually marketing myself
so
very
where
much
can
at the
they
moment.
see your output?
I will put stuff on my Twitter, obviously, for my proposal for ctx.com. You can check our Dash Watch reports, or you can just look at ctx.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I will talk about it on Discord and things too. We're going to be doing a incentivized program for buying Dash with your credit card in the States as part of our testing for our new on-ramp. That'll be on Discord, and I will talk about it on Twitter as well. But yeah, otherwise I will continue to market through the various channels. Follow me on Twitter. That's probably the easiest way. Yeah.
Let's get another super chat real quick. What is
Oh,
it?
go on.
I don't usually tip much, but when I do, I send 5.5555. Cheers, guys. Splowick. Is that like
Slawic.
a
I'm
most
a big fan
interesting
of
man
that
in the
guy.
world thing? I don't usually drink beer, but when I do, I prefer Dos Equis. No, anyway, it could be that. Thanks very much, Splowick. You're an OG. Thanks, Ash. Now it's time for this thing, magical, mythical thing we call the after party, which is a chat like this, but it's not recorded or public. But it's just as many people as you want, just shooting the shit until late. And yeah, so where you can go there, you have to go to. So the main way we do, you go to stay-e.com, and that gets you to the Dash Discord, and then you start asking around for it. If you follow me on other things, if you can DM me on Twitter or on ask on Telegram or whatever else, I'll put you into if you don't want to do Discord for whatever reason. But that's like the main entryway. Just say, hey, how I get on this after party, and yeah, we'll go in and it'll be a good time. I think the biggest after party was like 17 people so far, just still relatively intimate compared to these like Twitter spaces, but it was was a big one. So I'll be there for at least an hour, and some other people will be there until the sun starts to come up in the UK, which will be anyway. So if you want, yeah, there you go. Thanks so much for being on, Ash.
Pleasure
And
as
yeah,
always. Thank you for having me.
absolutely. And I'll see all y'all later.